The summer sky over Seoul was clear and blue. Jun Kim sat in his backyard with his wife Hana and their 8-year-old daughter Sue. It was a rare day off for him. As a top military leader, he did not get many free days. "More juice, please," Sue said, holding up her empty cup. Hana smiled and poured apple juice for their daughter. "Jun, you need to eat more. You work too hard." Jun nodded. He looked up at the sky. Strange lights had appeared. They were not stars or planes. "What are those?" he asked, standing up. Hana and Sue looked up too. The lights grew bigger and brighter. Soon they covered the whole sky. "Get inside," Jun said, his voice tight with fear. He grabbed Sue's hand. Before they could reach the house, a loud sound hit them. It was louder than any sound Jun had ever heard. The ground shook. Cars stopped in the streets. Phones went dead. On the TV inside, the news showed the same thing happening all over the world. Strange ships hung in the sky above every major city. They were huge, bigger than any building humans had ever made. "Dad, I'm scared," Sue whispered, holding his hand tight. "It's going to be okay," Jun said, but he was not sure. The phone rang. It was from the military base. "Sir, we are under attack. Our weapons don't work against them. They have some kind of shield." Jun tried to give orders, but the line went dead. Across the city, green beams shot down from the ships. Where they touched, people disappeared. "We need to hide," Jun said, pulling his family toward the basement. They didn't make it. A beam of green light came through the roof. Hana and Sue froze in place. They started to float up through the hole in the roof. "No," Jun yelled. He jumped and caught Sue's foot, but the pull was too strong. It lifted him too. Up they went, into the strange ship. Inside the ship, it was cold and dark. The air smelled wrong. Jun tried to hold on to his family, but strong arms pulled them apart. They were not human arms. They were long and had too many joints. In the dim light, Jun saw the beings who had taken them. They were tall and thin with 4 eyes and skin like wet clay. "Hana, Sue," he called as they were pulled away. "Jun." Hana called back. Sue was crying. Then they were gone, taken down a different hallway. Jun was thrown into a small room with metal walls. 5 other humans were there. They looked scared. "Where are we? What's happening?" a woman asked. Her name tag said Dr. Sun Park. "We've been taken," Jun said. "I think the whole world is under attack." Through a small window, Jun could see Earth getting smaller. The ship was leaving. Other ships were leaving too, hundreds of them, each carrying thousands of humans. "I'm a xenobiologist," Dr. Park said. "I study the idea of alien life. I warned people this could happen. No one listened." "Do you know what they want?" asked a man huddled in the corner. "No," she said, "but they came ready for us. They knew about our weapons, our defenses. They'd been watching us for a long time." Jun looked out at the stars. Earth was just a blue dot now. "My wife and daughter are somewhere on this ship," he said. "I'm going to find them." "How?" Dr. Park asked. "We're prisoners." Jun turned to look at the scared people in the room. In his mind, he was already planning. "For now," he said, "but they don't know humans very well if they think we'll stay that way." 3 years had passed since the day the sky filled with alien ships. Jun Kim's back hurt as he swung the heavy pick into the rock wall. Sweat ran down his face in the hot tunnel. The air was bad and hard to breathe. "Keep working, human," said a harsh voice. The Vex guard stood nearby. It was tall with gray skin and 4 eyes that blinked in pairs. Its 4 arms ended in hands with 6 fingers each. It held a pain stick that could make a human fall to the ground in agony with one touch. Jun kept working. He had learned when to fight and when to wait. Now was time to wait. Next to him, Ta broke rocks with a hammer. He had been an engineer on Earth. Now he was just another slave in the mines of Nexus Prime, the home world of the aliens who called themselves the Vex. New group coming in, Ta whispered. His voice was so quiet only June could hear it. The tunnel door opened. 20 tired humans walked in, ready to start their shift. The Vex guards pushed them with pain sticks. June looked at each face. He did this every day with every new group. He was still looking for Hannah and Sue. A woman with short black hair caught his eye. She looked thin and tired, but he knew her face. It was Hannah. His heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. The guards watched for any sign of humans recognizing each other. They kept families apart on purpose. When the guards looked away, June moved closer to her. Hannah, he whispered. She looked up. Her eyes went wide. June, is it really you? Yes. Don't react. They're watching. Hannah's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away and kept working. I've been in the farm domes, growing food for them. Sue, Joan asked. Pain crossed Hannah's face. They took her. All the children went to special training camps. I haven't seen her in 2 years. A guard walked toward them. They stopped talking and worked harder. Later, when the shift ended, they sat in the eating area. The food was a gray mush that tasted like nothing. It kept them alive, but just barely. Dr. Park sat with them. She had been watching the aliens, learning about them. They need us, she said quietly. They took millions of humans, but they lost many in the trip here. They need workers. Why us? Ty asked. Why Earth? I've been watching them, Dr. Park said. They're smart and have amazing technology, but they're not good at solving new problems. Humans adapt. We find new ways to do things. They don't. June thought about this. That's why they keep us weak. Bad food, little sleep, always afraid. They know we're dangerous if we get strong. Tha nodded. I've been mapping this place in my head. The tunnels, the guard posts, where the power comes from. 3 years of watching and remembering. I found something today, Hannah said. She carefully opened her hand under the table. In it was a small metal part. It fell off a guard's weapon. I hid it in my shoe. June looked at his wife with pride. Keep finding things, small things no one will miss. Ta can use them. For what? Dr. Park asked. For when we fight back, Jum said. His voice was quiet but strong. They think they've broken us. They think humans will just accept being slaves. They're wrong. Hannah touched his hand quickly. I heard from another worker. Some of the children are being changed. The Vex are doing something to make them different. Sue? June asked, his throat tight. I don't know, but I'll find out. I promise. The alarm sounded, ending the mealtime. As they stood up to return to work, June looked at the small group around him. They were tired and dirty, but in their eyes he saw something the Vex had not managed to kill. Hope. And where there was hope, there could be rebellion. 5 years had passed since the Vex took humans from Earth. Life in the camps was hard, but something was changing. Small acts of resistance were happening more often. Tools would break. Machines would stop working. Food would spoil. The Vex punished humans when these things happened, but they could never find who did it. June, Hannah, Dr. Park, and Ta met in a hidden corner of the mine during their short rest time. They spoke in a mix of Korean and other Earth languages. The Vex could not understand it. The North Tunnel team slowed work by half yesterday. Jum said, the Vex think the humans are getting weak. They don't know it was on purpose. Hannah smiled. The farm workers are doing the same. We grow less food than we could. Not so little that they notice, but enough to matter. Dr. Park nodded. I watch them all the time. The Vex don't handle change well. When things go wrong, they get confused. Ta pulled out a small object made from stolen parts. I made 3 more of these. They make a high sound that hurts Vex ears, but humans can't hear it. Put them near guard posts. A shadow fell over their small group. They looked up, afraid. A tall figure stood there, but it wasn't a Vex. It was a human in guard clothes. These were humans who worked for the Vex, watching other humans. Most slaves hated them. "Don't be afraid," the young man said. "My name is Da. I was a child when they took us. They trained me to be a guard, but I'm still human." June stood up, ready to protect the others. "What do you want?" "To help," Da said. He spoke quietly and looked around to make sure no Vex were near. "I know things, important things. The Vex are not as strong as they seem." "Why should we trust you?" Hannah asked. Day pulled up his sleeve. On his arm was a small drawing of Earth. It was the mark of humans who still had hope of going home one day. "I have access to Vex buildings. I hear them talk. They don't think humans understand their language, but I do." Da came closer. "The Vex are not united. There are many groups who fight each other. They took humans because they needed workers, but now some Vex fear us." "Fear us?" Tai asked. "But they have all the weapons. They fear how quickly humans learn, how we solve problems in new ways." Da looked at each of them. "And they fear the children most of all." Hannah grabbed his arm. "The children? Do you know about our daughter Sue? She was taken to the special training camps." Day nodded. "I came from those camps. The Vex changed the children. They try to make them more like Vex, loyal and obedient. But it's not working how they planned. The changed children are stronger and smarter than normal humans. Some can even read Vex minds a little." "And Sue?" June asked. "I don't know her, but I can try to find out," Da promised. That night, June led a small group of trusted humans to the main mining machine. This machine dug most of the valuable ore the Vex wanted. The humans had learned which parts would break easily. They damaged these parts, but made it look like an accident. The next day, work stopped. Vex guards ran around in panic. Vex leaders came to see what had happened. June watched carefully. He saw which Vex gave orders. He saw how they handled the problem. He learned their weakness. The Vex fixed the machine in 2 days. The humans were punished with less food. But June smiled as he went to bed hungry. The damage had been small, but it showed that humans could act together. It was the first real test of their secret network. That night, Hannah whispered to him. Da sent a message. He found Sue. She's alive and is one of the changed children. He says she's special, even among them. June held Hannah's hand tight. "Then we'll wait for the right time. And when it comes, the Vex will learn that taking humans was the biggest mistake they ever made." 7 years had passed since the Vex took humans from Earth. What began as small acts of resistance had grown into something bigger. June now led a secret group that spread across many work camps. They called themselves the Network. The Network had 3 simple rules: stay hidden, share information, and help each other. Every member knew only a few other members. This way, if one person was caught, they could not tell the Vex about everyone. June sat in a hidden space between 2 large pipes in the mining area. Da, the human guard who helped them, brought him news. "The Vex are sending more guards to the south camps," Da said. "They know something is happening, but they don't know what." "Good," June said. "Are the sound devices working?" Da smiled. "Yes, the guards in Section 5 left their post yesterday. The sound hurt their heads so much they thought they were sick." Ta had made more of his sound devices. They sent out sounds that humans couldn't hear but caused pain to Vex. The network put them in places where they wanted fewer guards. "I have news from Dr. Park," June said. "She found something important about how Vex think. Their brains connect to each other in a way ours don't. Certain sounds can break this connection and confuse them. That's why they hate music," Da said. "Human singing hurts them more than just the sound should." Later that day, Hannah came to June with exciting news. She had been working in the farm areas, but also making friends with other slaves. "I met someone new today," she said. Not a human. June looked surprised. One of the other slaves. The rock people. The Lithi, Hannah said. Yes. One of them knows a little English. The Vex took them from their world 30 years ago. They hate the Vex as much as we do. This was big news. Humans weren't the only slaves of the Vex. There were other races too. The Lithi were made of something like rock. There were also the Meru, who lived partly in water. Both races kept to themselves, not talking to humans much. Did they want to help us? June asked. Yes, Hannah said. They said humans are different. They said other races just accept being slaves after a while, but humans never stop fighting back. They want to join us. That night, June met with his closest friends in the network. Dr. Park showed them her new discovery. The Vex talk to each other with their minds, she said, but this device can block that talk. She held up a small box made from stolen parts. When we turn it on, nearby Vex will be confused and slow. Like making them drunk, Ta said with a smile. How many can you make? June asked. With Ta's help, maybe 20, Dr. Park said. We need more parts. I'll get them, Dad promised. Just then, another member of the network came in. He looked worried. There's news about the children, he said. The changed ones. June and Hannah both stood up. What about them? Hannah asked. What about Sue? The Vex are going to use them in their army, the man said. They've been training them to fight, but something strange is happening. The children are developing powers the Vex didn't expect. What powers? June asked. Some can move things without touching them. Some can read minds a little. Some are very strong. The Vex are worried. June and Hannah looked at each other. Their daughter might have these powers. We need to contact the children, June said. Can you get a message to the training camp? Day nodded. I think so. But we need to be careful. The Vex watched the children very closely. June looked around at his friends. What had started as a small group was now a big network of humans and other races, all working together against the Vex. The Vex think they're so smart, June said. But they made one big mistake. They brought thousands of humans together and gave us a reason to work as one. Now they'll see what humans can really do. 10 years had passed since the Vex took humans from Earth. Life on Nexus Prime was changing. The Vex Empire was having problems. They didn't have enough workers or food. Different Vex groups were fighting each other for power. June's network had grown very large. Thousands of humans now worked together in secret. They also worked with the Lithi rock people and the water-loving Meru. All three races wanted freedom from the Vex. June met with Da in a hidden room deep in the mines. Da now had a high position among the human guards. The Vex trusted him, which was their big mistake. The Vex leaders are all coming here next week, Da said. All the most important ones will meet in the big building in the center of the city. Why? June asked. They are fighting about what to do with humans. Some think we are too dangerous and want to kill us all. Others say they need us for work. This was important news. June had to tell the other network leaders right away. Later that day, Dr. Park showed June and the others her newest invention. It was bigger than her other devices. This can send out the blocking sound over a much bigger area, she said. It will affect all Vex within 1 mile. They won't be able to think clearly or talk to each other with their minds. How long will it work? Tai asked. About 20 minutes, Dr. Park said. Then it runs out of power. 20 minutes could be enough, June said, if we plan carefully. That night, a message came from a place they never expected. It was from the special camp where the Vex kept the changed children. It was from Sue, June, and Hannah's daughter. Hannah read the message out loud, her voice shaking with emotion. Father, Mother, I am alive. The Vex think we serve them, but many of us have been working against them in secret. We have powers they didn't expect. I can move things with my mind, and sometimes hear Vex thoughts. There are 50 of us ready to help when you make your move. Tell us when. June had to wipe tears from his eyes. His daughter was alive and strong. How do we know this is really from her? Ty asked. It could be a trap. The message includes things only Sue would know, Hannah said. Stories from when she was little on Earth. The next day, something terrible happened. A small group of humans in the farm area refused to work. They were tired of the bad food and long hours. The Vex guards took 10 humans and killed them in front of everyone. They said this would happen to anyone who didn't work hard enough. One of the dead was a network member, a kind woman who had helped many sick humans. When June heard the news, he knew they couldn't wait any longer. If they did, more people would die. The network had planned to wait another month to get ready, but now they had to act. He called all the network leaders together, Human, Lithi, and Meru. The Vex leaders will all be here in 3 days, he said. We will never have a better chance. It's time to fight. But we're not ready, one human said. We don't have enough weapons. We have our minds, June said. We have Dr. Park's devices. We have friends among other races, and we have the changed children, including my daughter. He looked around the room. We have waited 10 years. We have built our network. We have learned the Vex weaknesses. Now we will show them that taking humans was the worst choice they ever made. Everyone in the room nodded. They were afraid, but they were also ready. The rebellion would begin in 3 days. The day of rebellion came. June woke up early. Today everything would change. They would win freedom or die trying. He met with his team leaders in a hidden room in the mines. Each team had a job to do. They went over the plan one last time. Remember, June said, once we start, there is no going back. The first hour is the most important. We must take control of key places before the Vex can organize. At noon, the mines were busy with workers. Vex guards stood watching, their 4 eyes blinking in the dust. None of them knew what was about to happen. June gave the signal. Dr. Park turned on her device. A sound that humans could not hear filled the air. The effect on the Vex was immediate. They grabbed their heads, confused and in pain. Some fell to the ground. Others tried to call for help, but the sound blocked their mind links. Now, June shouted. Hundreds of humans pulled out hidden weapons. Some had made metal spikes from mining tools. Others had rocks or pikes. They attacked the confused guards. June led a group toward the weapon storage. The Vex kept their pain sticks and stronger weapons locked up. With Dr. Park's device making the guards weak, June's team quickly took control of the weapons. Meanwhile, Hannah was in the communication center. Her team had been hidden among the cleaning workers. When the rebellion started, they took over the center. Todd joined them. He knew how to use the Vex machines to send messages. Send the signal to all camps, Hannah said. Tell them it's time. Todd worked quickly. He sent the rebel signal to all human camps on Nexus Prime. Soon, reports came back. Humans were rising up everywhere. In the training camps, Sue and the other changed children made their move. The Vex had given them powers, thinking the children would serve them. They were wrong. Sue used her mind to throw 2 Vex guards against a wall. Other children used their powers too. Some were super strong. Some could move things without touching them. Some could make fire with their hands. Free the younger children first, Sue told the others. Then we join our parents. The Lithi rock people collapsed tunnels, trapping Vex soldiers underground. The Meru water people flooded the lower levels of Vex buildings. All the slaves fought together against their common enemy. By the end of the first hour, the rebels controlled the mines, the farms, and the communication center. June led his fighters toward the city center. They met heavy resistance. The Vex were recovering from the surprise. Dr. Park's device is running out of power, someone shouted. Keep fighting, June called back. We knew this would happen. Without the device, the Vex could use their mind links again. They began to organize. Larger Vex troops came with better weapons. Humans fell under their fire. Just when things looked bad, a new group joined the fight. 50 young humans with strange powers. The changed children had arrived. Sue ran to her parents. June and Hannah could hardly believe it was her. She was taller, stronger, and her eyes glowed slightly. "Sue," Hannah cried, hugging her. "No time, Mother," Sue said. "The Vex leaders are trying to escape. We must stop them." The changed children used their powers against the Vex. They could sense the Vex mind links and disrupt them. The battle turned in the humans' favor again. By sunset, the rebels controlled half the city. But the Vex were calling for help from other worlds. A large Vex ship appeared in the sky. "They're bringing reinforcements," Dai warned. June looked at his family, then at the brave fighters around him. "Then we fight harder. This is day one of our freedom. There's no going back now." The first day of rebellion was ending. The real war was just beginning. News of the human rebellion spread quickly across Nexus Prime. In every slave camp, humans and other races rose up against their Vex masters. What began in the mines was now a planet-wide fight for freedom. June had prepared for this moment for years. He knew the Vex were stronger, but they were not smarter. They had better weapons, but they did not understand how humans fight. "We don't attack in big groups," he told his fighters. "We hit fast, and then hide. We use the city against them. The Vex are big. They can't go where we can go." The human fighters split into small teams. They attacked Vex patrols, took their weapons, and then disappeared into air ducts, sewers, and narrow alleys. The Vex couldn't follow. When the Vex sent out bigger forces, they found no one to fight. Sue led a special team of changed children. Their mission was the most dangerous. They had to capture the Vex communications hub in the center of the city. "The building has 50 guards," Sue told her team. "But we have powers they don't expect." The changed children moved like shadows through the city. When they reached the hub, Sue used her mind to turn off the lights. In the dark, the children attacked. They used their powers to throw Vex against walls, to start small fires, to break weapons. Within 10 minutes, the hub was theirs. "Now, Dr. Park," Sue called into her radio. In a hidden room, Dr. Park turned on her biggest device ever. It sent out the special sound that disrupted Vex mind links. But this time, the signal went through the communications hub. Every Vex on the planet heard it. Across Nexus Prime, Vex soldiers fell to the ground in confusion. They couldn't think clearly. They couldn't work together. Some even attacked other Vex by mistake. Meanwhile, Hannah led a team to the place where the Vex leaders were meeting. With the guards confused by Dr. Park's signal, they got inside easily. "Don't kill them," Hannah told her fighters. "We need them alive." The Vex leaders were the oldest and smartest of their kind. They had 4 eyes like all Vex, but their skin was paler. They wore gold bands around their long necks to show their high rank. "You will all die for this," one Vex leader said in a deep voice. "No," Hannah replied. "You will tell your people to stop fighting, or you will die first." While Hannah held the leaders, Tai's team took control of the space stations that circled Nexus Prime. The Vex kept powerful weapons on these stations. Now those weapons were in human hands. When Vex ships came from other planets to help, they found the weapons pointed at them. Some ships turned away. Others were shot down. The battle went on for 3 days. By the 3rd day, something surprising happened. Some Vex groups stopped fighting. They saw that the rebels were winning, and they didn't want to be on the losing side. "The eastern city has surrendered," a messenger told June. "The Vex there say they never wanted to fight humans. They say it was the leaders who wanted war." June didn't trust them, but he accepted their surrender. More Vex groups followed. By the end of the 3rd day, most of the fighting had stopped. The rebels controlled the main cities, the mines, the farms, and the space stations. June, Hannah, and Sue stood together on a hill overlooking the capital city. Smoke rose from some buildings, but the sky was clear. "Is it really over?" Hannah asked. "The fighting is mostly over," June said. But now comes the hard part. We have to build something new. Sue looked at her parents. The Vex took us from Earth, but they made us stronger. Now we have a chance to create something better than what they built. The rebels had won the battle for Nexus Prime. But the story wasn't over yet. 1 week after the battle ended, the meeting began. Humans, Lithi, Meru, and Vex all came to the big round building in the center of the capital city. It was time to talk about the future. June, Hana, and Dr. Park led the human team. Rock-like Lithi leaders and water-loving Meru chiefs stood with them. On the other side of the room sat the remaining Vex leaders, their 4 eyes blinking nervously. They had never lost a war before. "We want more than just freedom," Jum said to the Vex. "We want a place of our own, and we want your ships so we can one day return to Earth." A tall Vex with pale skin spoke. "You ask too much. The ships belong to the Vex Empire." "The ships belong to whoever controls them," Hannah said. "And right now, that's us." Sue stood beside her parents. The Vex stared at her and the other changed children with fear in their eyes. These children were supposed to be their servants. Instead, they had helped defeat the Vex. Sue stepped forward. After years of training in the Vex camps, she understood how they thought. "You have 2 choices," she told the Vex. "Work with us and keep some of your power, or fight us and lose everything." The Vex leaders talked among themselves in their clicking language. They didn't know that Sue could understand every word. She heard them admit they were afraid of humans. They had never seen a species fight back so hard. After hours of talk, the Vex agreed to the main points. Humans, Lithi and Meru would get their freedom. They would have their own lands on Nexus Prime. They would get ships and technology. "And one more thing," Jun said. "We want to know where Earth is. The real location." The Vex had kept this secret. Even the human pilots who flew Vex ships were never told the truth about where Earth was in the galaxy. The head Vex made an angry sound but nodded. "We will provide star maps, but it will take years for your ships to reach Earth, even with our technology." That night, the former slaves celebrated. For the first time in 10 years, they danced and sang without fear. The Vex hated music, so it had been forbidden. Now the city was filled with songs from Earth, from Lithi, and from Meru. June found a quiet spot away from the celebration. He looked up at the stars, wondering which one was the sun that Earth circled. Hana joined him. "Are you not happy with our victory?" she asked. "I am," June said. "But I'm thinking about what comes next. Freedom is just the beginning. Now we have to build something." Sue came to stand with her parents. At 17, she was no longer the little girl who had been taken from Earth. She was a leader among the changed children. "The other races are afraid of us," she said. "Not just the Vex, but even the Lithi and Meru. They see what humans can do when we work together. Then we must show them that humans can build peace as well as we can fight wars," Jum said. The next day, the leaders of all 4 races signed the Treaty of Nexus Prime. It created new borders, new laws, and new rights for everyone. The Vex would keep some of their cities, but they would no longer rule the planet. The human area would be called the Human Stellar Territory. For the first time in 10 years, humans had a place they could call their own. As June signed his name to the treaty, he thought about how far they had come. From slaves in the mines to leaders making history, the Vex had taken everything from them. But in the end, humans had gained something the Vex never expected: a new beginning among the stars. 5 years had passed since the rebellion. Nexus Prime was a different world now, where once the Vex ruled everything. 4 races now shared the planet. Each had their own territory and their own ways. The human stellar territory grew quickly. Humans built new cities using Vex technology, but with human designs. The streets were wide and filled with music, something the Vex had never allowed. June now served on the Council of Species. Leaders from humans, Lithi, Meru, and Vex met each month to solve problems and keep peace. It wasn't always easy. Old anger still lived in many hearts, but they worked to build something better than before. The third moon settlement is complete, June told the council. Humans and Lithi will live there together. The Lithi leader, a tall being made of living crystal, made a sound like stones falling. This was a Lithi laugh. Our people work well together. Humans think quickly. Lithi build strongly. Even some Vex nodded in agreement. After the meeting, June walked through the city that had once been the Vex capital. Now it was called New Hope, and it was the center of the human stellar territory. Ships from all parts of Nexus Prime landed at its spaceport. Hannah met him in the big park at the center of the city. She led the human finding project, looking for humans who had been taken to far parts of the Vex Empire. Every month, she brought more lost humans home. 2 more ships came today, she said, smiling. 300 humans from the outer colonies. Some had been alone among Vex for all 10 years. They cried when they saw other humans. Jun hugged her. You do good work. How was the council meeting? Better than last time. The Vex are finally accepting that they must share power. They walked together to the tall building where Dr. Park worked. After the rebellion, she had started the Science Institute. There, humans studied Vex technology and made it better. Dr. Park showed them her latest work. We have learned how Vex ships move between stars so quickly. Soon we will build our own ships, faster than theirs. How long until we can reach Earth? June asked. This question was always in his mind. 5 more years, Dr. Park said. Maybe less. Later that day, June and Hannah met Sue at the monument in the center of the city. The tall stone structure had the names of all humans who had died in captivity or during the rebellion. Sue came here often to think. At 22, Sue was a leader of the Special Diplomatic Corps. All the changed children worked there. Their unique abilities made them perfect for solving problems between the different races. How is my favorite diplomat? June asked his daughter. Sue smiled. Busy. The Meru and Vex are arguing about water rights again. But we'll find a solution. They stood together looking at the monument. So much had been lost, but so much had been gained too. Look, Hannah pointed to the sky. A new ship was coming down to the spaceport. It was different from the others. Its shape was like old Earth ships, but bigger and more advanced. The Star Seeker has returned, Sue said. The Star Seeker was the first ship humans had sent to look for Earth after getting star maps from the Vex. It had left 3 years ago. They found it, Sue said, her eyes slightly glowing as she used her powers. They found Earth. That night, all of New Hope celebrated. The Star Seeker's crew told amazing news. Earth was still there. Humans on Earth had rebuilt after the Vex attack. They had been looking for their lost people. And now, they knew where to find them. June, Hannah, and Sue stood on a balcony, watching ships land in the spaceport. Soon, ships would go to Earth. Some humans would return home. Others would stay in their new world among the stars. The Vex thought they were defeating us when they took us from Earth, June said. They didn't know they were helping humans reach the stars. Hannah took his hand. We lost our home, but found a new one. Sue looked up at the stars. Not just one new home. 1,000 new homes waiting for us. The story of human captivity had ended. The story of human expansion into the galaxy was just beginning.